The War Council chamber aboard the dreadnought Eternal Fang smelled like victory. Or at least, that's what High Commander Vex Thor thought, as he watched Emperor Kairen, the merciless, stride through the massive doorway, his crimson robes trailing behind him like rivers of blood. Vex Thor had conquered 47 worlds in his 300-year military career. He'd seen species grovel, beg, and ultimately submit to the might of the Zarthian Empire. This would be number 48. Easy work. Status report. Kairen's voice boomed across the chamber, settling into his throne with the casual confidence of someone who'd never lost anything more significant than a game of cards. Your Magnificence, Vex Thor began, suppressing what might have been amusement in a less disciplined soldier. The human homeworld, designation Earth, lies before us. Scans indicate a technologically primitive species. Nuclear capability only. Chemical propulsion. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. They still use metal projectiles that rely on explosive powder. A ripple of laughter echoed through the assembled war chiefs. Powder! General Krelix slapped his armored thigh. What's next? Wooden clubs? Stone axes? They do have some interesting qualities. Sub-Commander Telvara interjected, her 3 eyes scanning a datapad. Stubborn. Unpredictable. Their entertainment broadcasts show a peculiar obsession with their own extinction scenarios. They call them, disaster movies. They fantasize about their own destruction? Kairen leaned forward. How delightfully morbid. Saves us the trouble of breaking their spirits, I suppose. Vex Thor continued. We've intercepted their communications. Primitive radio waves mostly. They're aware of our presence now. Their leaders are, and I quote, freaking out. End quote. Freaking out? Kairen tested the words in his mouth like exotic food. Curious phrase. I like it. Very evocative. Shall we commence orbital bombardment? Your Magnificence? Krelix asked, a little too eagerly. He was young for a general, only 200 years old, and still enjoyed the spectacle of conquest more than the actual strategy. No, no, no. Kairen waved a clawed hand dismissively. Where's the sport in that? We give them the standard terms. 2 days to surrender unconditionally, or we reduce their major population centers to molten glass. It's traditional. It's classy. It gives them time to properly appreciate the futility of resistance. Vex Thor nodded, though something nagged at the back of his tactical mind. In all his years of conquest, he'd learned to trust that nagging feeling. It had saved his life on at least 6 occasions. Your Magnificence, perhaps we should consider. Consider what, Commander? That these powder-using primitives might pose a threat to the Eternal Fang? Kairen laughed, a sound like grinding gears. We have 300 warships in orbit. Each one could sterilize their entire planet twice. Over. What could possibly go wrong? Famous last words, Vex Thor thought, but didn't say. He'd been a soldier long enough to know when to keep his mouth shut. The transmission was sent within the hour. Standard intimidation package. Show of force. Holographic projection of Emperor Kairen himself. Magnified to building size above Earth's major cities. New York, Beijing, London, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Lagos, Sydney. The message was simple, translated into all major Earth languages. People of Earth, I am Emperor Kairen of the Zarthian Empire. You have 2 days to surrender your world unconditionally. Lay down your weapons. Submit to imperial authority. Failure to comply will result in the total annihilation of your species. We will begin with your capital cities and work our way down to your smallest villages. Your technology is inferior. Your resistance is futile. Your only rational choice is submission. You have 48 hours. Use them wisely. Back in the War Council chamber, they watched the human reactions on multiple screens. Panic in the streets, as expected. Government buildings evacuating, Some kind of emergency broadcast system activating, military forces mobilizing, though what good that would do against orbital superiority was anyone's guess. Look at them. Scurry, Krelix chuckled. Like insects when you lift the rock they're hiding under. Sub-Commander Telvara, have we identified their central command structure? Kairen asked. Yes, Your Magnificence. A place called the Pentagon. It's in a city called Washington. Very creative naming convention, by the way. They seem to name everything after dead leaders. This Washington fellow must have been quite important. And their response to our ultimatum? Nothing official yet, Your Magnificence. Though their internet, a primitive information network, is, going absolutely berserk. Lots of memes, apparently. I don't fully understand the concept, but they seem to find the situation humorous. Vexthor leaned in to look at the screen. Indeed, humans were posting images with text overlay. One showed a small dog with an angry expression captioned, "When aliens give you 2 days, but you couldn't even handle 2020. Another showed a human in a suit, shrugging with text reading, "Bold of you to assume we weren't already planning our own extinction." They're laughing? Kairen sounded genuinely confused. At their impending annihilation? Humans are weird, Your Magnificence, Telvara said, with complete sincerity. 23 hours into the ultimatum, something changed. Vexthor was reviewing tactical data when the communication officer, a young scout named Brintok, interrupted. "High Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth's military command." "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a human male in military dress. Older specimen, maybe 60 of their years, with short gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite with dull tools. His uniform was covered in colorful ribbons and metal pins. Primitive status markers, Vexthor assumed. "This is General Marcus Sullivan of the United Earth Defense Forces." The human's voice was steady. Too steady. "I'm responding to your, how did you put it, generous offer." Kairen materialized in the hologram beside Vexthor. "Ah, a representative at last. I trust you're prepared to discuss terms of surrender?" General Sullivan smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who'd just spotted prey that didn't know it was prey yet. "Surrender? Oh no, Your Majesty. I'm calling about your surrender." The War Council chamber went silent, then erupted in laughter. "Did this primitive just?" Krelix couldn't finish his sentence through his howling, but Vexthor wasn't laughing. He was watching Sullivan's eyes, cold, calculating, absolutely fearless. "You find something amusing, General?" Sullivan asked. "You have 48 hours to surrender," Kairen said, composing himself. "And you're demanding we surrender to you? You have projectile weapons. We have plasma cannons. You have chemical rockets. We have faster-than-light drives. What exactly is your leverage here?" "Well, let's see." Sullivan leaned back in his chair. "You've got 300 ships. Pretty impressive. Must have taken a lot of resources to build that fleet. How long? Century? 2? 300 years, Kairen said proudly. The finest armada in the galaxy. Right. 300 years. That's cute. Sullivan picked up a tablet. We've been tracking your fleet since you entered our solar system. Nice formation, by the way. Very textbook. Probably works great on species that don't have radar, satellite networks, and a really unhealthy obsession with war movies. Your point, human? Vexthor asked, that nagging feeling growing stronger. My point is this. You came here expecting scared primitives. You saw our tech level and assumed we'd roll. Over. But here's the thing about humans. We're really, really good at killing each other. We've been doing it for millennia. We've perfected it. We've made an art form out of it. And in the last 100 years, we've gotten scary good at it. Sullivan tapped his tablet. Every single one of your ships is now targeted by at least 50 nuclear warheads. We've got submarines, silo-based missiles, mobile launchers, air-launched cruise missiles, and stuff we haven't told anyone about because, frankly, it scares us. Your shields? We've been analyzing them for the past day. Energy-based, right? Designed to deflect plasma and lasers? Vex Thor felt his blood chill. Commander, verify shield specifications. They're designed for energy weapons, High Commander. Brintok confirmed quietly. Right. Sullivan's smile widened. Energy shields? Very advanced. Totally useless against kinetic weapons traveling at 17,000 miles per hour. You know what happens when a 200-kiloton nuclear warhead detonates against an energy shield? Nothing. The shield ignores it completely because it's looking for energy signatures. The explosion goes right through. And the electromagnetic pulse? That'll fry every electrical system on your ships before the fireball even hits. The War Council wasn't laughing anymore. You're bluffing, Kairen said. But his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Am I? Sullivan stood up. Want to test that theory? Because I've got 3,000 nuclear weapons ready to launch on my command. And before you think about shooting them down, remember, you're in high orbit. Our missiles will hit terminal velocity in 90 seconds. Your point defense systems will have maybe 20 seconds to acquire and engage. And you'll need to hit every single one, because just one getting through means catastrophic damage. He paused, letting that sink in. But here's where it gets fun. You know what happens if you do manage to shoot down our missiles? We've also got kinetic kill vehicles. Tungsten rods. No explosives, no warheads, just solid metal dropped from orbit. Physics does the rest. We call them rods from God. Can't be intercepted because they're not missiles. Can't be stopped because they're just falling. And each one hits with the force of a small nuclear weapon. We've got 600 satellites carrying these. Each satellite has 20 rods. You do the math. Vex Thor was doing the math. It wasn't good math. And that's just first response, Sullivan continued, clearly enjoying himself now. If you somehow survive that, we've got conventional forces. Railguns we've been testing in secret. Directed energy weapons, chemical weapons, biological weapons, radiological weapons, and stuff we cooked up just in case we ever met aliens and they turned out to be jerks. And before you think about retreating to a safe distance and bombarding us from range, we've got a nice surprise there too. What surprise? Kairen demanded. 3 days ago, we detected your fleet. 2 days ago, we launched a dozen stealth probes on an intercept course. They're small, cold, radar-absorbent, and currently attached to your flagship's hull. Each one carries a 50-megaton warhead. One word from me, and your throne room becomes a brief star. Brintok frantically checked sensors. High Commander, I'm detecting. Oh gods, he's right. Multiple unknown contacts on hull sections 12 through 18. Impossible, Krelix whispered. We're humans, Sullivan said simply. Impossible is just Tuesday for us. Kairen's face had gone through several interesting color changes. You're threatening to destroy my flagship? Oh no, Your Majesty, I'm not threatening anything. I'm informing you of reality. You came to our planet and threatened to exterminate us. We've simply returned the favor, with interest. This is. Kairen struggled for words. Undiplomatic? Aggressive? Insane? Sullivan offered. Yeah, we get that a lot. Here's how this works now. You've got 10 seconds to order every ship in your fleet to power down weapons, drop shields, and prepare to be boarded. 10 seconds. Not 2 days. Not 2 hours. 10 seconds. You can't be serious, Vex Thor said. 7 seconds. We have 300 ships, Krelix shouted. 4 seconds. Kairen looked at Vex Thor. Vex Thor looked at his tactical displays, at the signatures appearing on sensors now that they knew what to look for. at the trajectories of weapons systems coming online across Earth's surface, at the cold, hard math of mutually assured destruction. 1 second. Stand down, Vex Thor barked. All ships, emergency power down. Drop shields, disable weapons systems. Good choice, Sullivan said. Now, here's what happens next. You're going to sit there quietly while we send boarding parties to every ship. You're going to cooperate fully. You're going to answer all our questions. And then, if we're feeling generous, we might let you leave. This is outrageous, Kairen sputtered. We are the Zarthian Empire. We have conquered 47 worlds. 47, huh? Sullivan's eyebrows rose. Interesting. We'll want coordinates for all of them. See, we've got some questions about this whole galactic conquest thing. Questions about rights, sovereignty, and whether anyone asked these 47 worlds if they wanted to be conquered. Questions that might require some liberation efforts. Vex Thor realized with growing horror what Sullivan was implying. You're not just defending your world. You're planning a counteroffensive? Sullivan smiled that predator's smile again. Let's just say humanity has always been really good at holding grudges. You threaten Earth. You don't just get Earth. You get everything humans decide to care about, which, as it turns out, includes 47 other species you've been bullying. You can't, Kairen said weakly. We absolutely can. And here's the beautiful part. We're not even united as a species yet. We still fight each other constantly. But you know what humans are really, really good at? Coming together when someone threatens all of us. You just gave 7 billion aggressive, territorial, slightly crazy primates a common enemy. Congratulations. You've unified humanity. I'd say that was your first mistake, but honestly, your first mistake was coming here at all. The hologram flickered. Boarding parties will arrive in 30 minutes, Sullivan said. Be nice to them. They've had a long day, and they're a bit jumpy. Oh, and your Majesty? Welcome to Earth. We'd say, make yourself at home, but you won't be staying long. The transmission ended. The War Council chamber remained silent for exactly 5 seconds before exploding into chaos. Officers shouting, alarms blaring, Kairen demanding explanations that nobody had. Vex Thor watched it all with a strange sense of calm. He'd survived 3 centuries of warfare by trusting his instincts. And his instincts had been screaming at him since the moment they'd arrived at Earth. He looked at the tactical display showing Earth below, blue and green, and utterly unimpressed by the Zarthian Empire's military might. Commander? Brintok asked quietly. What do we do? Vex Thor thought about those 47 conquered worlds, about 300 years of building an empire that had just been humbled in under 24 hours by a species that still used gunpowder. We survive, he said finally. We cooperate. And we pray to whatever gods we believe in that humanity is feeling merciful. Do you think they will be? Vex Thor remembered Sullivan's eyes. Cold. Calculating. Absolutely fearless. No, he said honestly. No, I don't think they will be. The first human boarding party arrived exactly 30 minutes later, just as General Sullivan had promised. Vex Thor had expected soldiers in bulky armor, maybe some primitive spacesuits with weapons drawn. What he got instead was 20 humans in sleek black tactical gear, moving through the Eternal Fang's corridors with the efficiency of apex predators who'd done this 1,000 times before. Their leader was a woman, dark-skinned with sharp features and eyes that missed absolutely nothing. She walked right up to Vex Thor, looked him up and down, and extended her hand. Colonel Rebecca Hayes, United Earth Special Operations. You must be the High Commander. Vex Thor stared at the offered hand. Some kind of greeting ritual, he assumed. He carefully took it, surprised by the strength in her grip. You're not what I expected, he admitted. Hayes smiled. It was almost friendly. Almost. Yeah, we get that a lot. Where's your Emperor? Throne room? 3rd level? But I must warn you, He's not in a cooperative mood. They never are. Hayes gestured to her team. Mitchell, take 5 and secure engineering. Park, you've got weapons control. Lee, communications. I want every system locked down in 10 minutes. Anyone resists, stun them. Anyone gets aggressive, well, try not to make too much of a mess. The cleanup crews hate paperwork. The team dispersed with practiced precision, leaving Hayes with 4 soldiers and Vexthor standing awkwardly in the corridor. Lead the way, Commander, Hayes said pleasantly. Let's go meet royalty. They found Kairen exactly where Vexthor knew he'd be, pacing his throne room like a caged animal, surrounded by his personal guard. 8 elite warriors, each standing 7 feet tall, armed with plasma rifles and bad attitudes. Your Magnificence, Vexthor began. The human boarding party has arrived. I recommend. Recommend? Kairen spun around. You recommend? You let these primitives waltz onto my flagship and now you're making recommendations? Hayes stepped forward, utterly unconcerned by the 8 plasma rifles suddenly aimed at her head. Your Majesty. Nice digs. Very intimidating. Love the whole Dark Overlord aesthetic you've got going. Really commits to the theme. Kairen's face turned an impressive shade of purple. How dare you address me with such disrespect? I am Emperor of the Zarthian Empire. Yeah, we got the memo. Look, Your Highness, we can do this easy, or we can do this hard. Easy version, you sit down, answer some questions, maybe we all walk away from this without anyone getting hurt. Hard version involves a lot of screaming and some truly regrettable decisions on your part. Which do you prefer? One of the guards stepped forward. Lower your weapon, human, or I will. He never finished the sentence. Hayes moved so fast that Vexthor barely tracked it. One moment she was standing still. The next she'd closed the distance, disarmed the guard, and had him face down on the floor with his own weapon pressed against the back of his head. Total elapsed time, maybe 3 seconds. Anyone else want to volunteer? Hayes asked cheerfully. The remaining guards looked at each other, looked at their companion on the floor, looked at Hayes. Very slowly, they lowered their weapons. Smart. Hayes released the guard and tossed his rifle to one of her soldiers. Now, Your Majesty, let's chat. Tell me about these 47 worlds you've conquered. Start with the first one. Names, coordinates, native populations, everything. I will tell you nothing, Kairen said, trying to salvage some dignity. Hayes pulled out a tablet. Okay, hard way it is. Sergeant Park, how's that communications array coming? A voice crackled through her earpiece. Locked down, Colonel. We've got full access to their database. Excellent. Pull everything. Fleet compositions, supply lines, military installations, occupied territories, command structures, everything. Oh, and Park, when you're done, broadcast it. Every frequency, every channel. Make sure every species in this sector knows exactly what the Zarthian Empire has been up to. Kairen went pale. The strategic implications alone. Oh, we absolutely can. See, that's the thing about being from a planet with no galactic political connections. We don't have to play nice. No treaties to honor. No diplomatic relationships to maintain. No ancient alliances to consider. We're completely free to burn your entire empire down. And the best part? Nobody can stop us, because nobody even knows we exist yet. Vexthor watched his emperor's face cycle through denial, anger, bargaining, and finally, resignation. It was not a pleasant sight. What do you want? Kairen asked quietly. Better question. Hayes sat down on the steps leading to the throne, casual as anything. What do you think we want? Our technology, our ships, our weapons? Hayes laughed. Actually, laughed. Your Majesty, no offense, but we've had your ships under a microscope for 30 hours now. Your faster-than-light drives? Interesting. We'll probably reverse engineer those. Your plasma weapons? Cute, but we've got particle accelerators that make them look like water pistols. Your energy? Shields? Useless, as you've discovered. You don't have anything we can't build ourselves, given enough time. Then what? Hayes leaned forward. We want to know why. Why conquer 47 worlds? What's the end game? Resources? Territory? Just because you could? Kairen looked genuinely confused by the question. Because that's what empires do. We expand. We conquer. We bring order to chaos, civilization to barbarism. Right. Because nothing says civilization like threatening to glass an entire planet from orbit. Hayes stood up. Here's what's going to happen. We're taking your fleet. All 300 ships. Consider it reparations for, the whole attempted genocide thing. Your crew will be detained, processed, and eventually returned to your homeworld with a very clear message. What message? Vex Thor asked, though he suspected he already knew. Earth is off limits. Forever. You come back. We don't just defend ourselves. We hunt you down. We find every Zarthian colony, every outpost, every single rock you've planted a flag on, and we introduce you to the concept of total war. Human-style total war, which is significantly more terrifying than whatever you've been doing. You can't threaten an entire species, Kairen protested weakly. We just did. And before you think about rallying other species against us, remember that we're also liberating those 47 worlds you conquered. Pretty sure they're going to be Team Humanity in any future conflict. Funny how that works. A commotion in the hallway interrupted the conversation. Raised voices, the sound of boots on metal, and then General Sullivan himself strode into the throne room, flanked by more soldiers. Colonel Hayes, he nodded. Status? Fleet secured, sir. Minimal resistance. Their database is being downloaded as we speak. Sullivan turned his attention to Kairen. Your Majesty, I'm told you're being uncooperative. I am Emperor of... Yeah, we've covered that. Look, I'm going to level with you. I'm old, I'm tired, and I've got a mountain of paperwork waiting back on Earth, because apparently saving the planet requires filling out forms in triplicate. So I'm going to make this simple. Sullivan walked up to the throne, looked at it appraisingly, and then sat down. Just sat down in the Emperor's throne like it was a park bench. Kairen made a strangled noise. Comfortable, Sullivan observed. Little ostentatious for my taste, but comfortable. Now, here's the deal. You and your people are going home. Today. We're keeping your ships, your weapons, and your technology. We're also keeping detailed records of every war crime your empire has committed, which, spoiler alert, is a lot. That information is going to be shared with every species you've oppressed. You're declaring war on the entire Zarthian Empire, Kairen said. No, Sullivan's voice went hard. We're declaring peace, enforced peace. You're done conquering, done expanding, done threatening. From now on, the Zarthian Empire exists because Earth allows it to exist. Step out of line, and we'll remind you why humanity climbed to the top of the food chain on a planet that actively tried to kill us for millions of years. Vex Thor felt compelled to speak. General Sullivan, I have served in the military for 3 centuries. I have seen countless species surrender, accept occupation, adapt to new rulers. But I have never seen anyone respond to overwhelming force with overwhelming force of their own. How? Sullivan stood up from the throne. You want to know the secret, Commander? We're terrified. Absolutely terrified. Every day. We have been since we climbed down from the trees and realized the night was full of things with bigger teeth. That fear? It made us creative. It made us innovative. It made us build weapons that scared us more than anything else in the universe, because we absolutely knew, that someday we'd need them. He gestured to the viewport, showing Earth below. You saw a primitive planet, and thought it would be an easy conquest. You know what we saw when we looked up at the stars? Threats, potential enemies, things that might come to hurt us someday. So we prepared. We built bunkers and backup plans. We created weapons we prayed we'd never use. We spent decades, centuries, getting ready for the day someone like you showed up. That's insane, Kairen whispered. Absolutely. Sullivan agreed. Welcome to humanity. We're all a little crazy. It's part of our charm. Hayes tapped her tablet. General, we've got incoming. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Zarthian signatures. Looks like reinforcements. Sullivan didn't even blink. How many? 75. Destroyer class. Huh. Someone back home found out their invasion fleet went dark and sent backup. Sullivan looked at Kairen. These friends of yours going to be reasonable? Or do we need to have another demonstration? You can't fight. 75 destroyers, Vex Thor said. Even with nuclear weapons, the numbers are against you. True. Sullivan pulled out a communicator. Morrison, you there? Here, General. A new voice crackled through. We've got 75 incoming hostiles. Break out the new toys. Sir, the experimental weapons haven't been fully tested. They're about to be. Light them up. Vex Thor watched the tactical display with growing dread. The 75 destroyers were indeed approaching Earth, weapons charging, clearly intending to avenge the captured fleet. And then, something impossible happened. A satellite network he hadn't even noticed activated. Dozens of platforms in orbit around Earth, and the moon suddenly came online, tracking systems locking onto the incoming ships. What is that? He asked. Project Aegis, Hayes said with evident pride. Orbital defense grid, railguns, mostly. Accelerate a tungsten slug to 0.05% the speed of light, and physics does the rest. No explosives needed. Just kinetic energy and geometry. The destroyers entered range. The orbital platforms fired. Vex Thor had seen many weapons in his long career. Plasma cannons, antimatter missiles, gravitational disruptors. He'd never seen anything like this. The railgun slugs were invisible to the naked eye, just mathematical certainties in the targeting computers. The destroyers tried to evade, tried to return fire, tried to activate shields that were utterly useless against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. 75 ships entered Earth's defensive perimeter. 43 seconds later, 75 expanding clouds of debris occupied the same space. The throne room was absolutely silent. Your Majesty, Sullivan said quietly, I want you to understand something. That was us, being merciful. We targeted engines and critical systems. We could have vaporized every ship completely. We didn't, because we're hoping those crews survive long enough for rescue and can carry back our message. But if you send another fleet, we won't be so kind. Kairen looked like he'd aged 100 years in the last minute. How? How does a species that still uses chemical propulsion have weapons like that? Because we knew someday someone would threaten us. And we'd rather have the weapons and not need them than need them and not have them. That's human logic. Paranoid, excessive, and effective. Hayes checked her tablet. General, we're getting communications from those 47 occupied worlds. Word has spread fast. They're asking if Earth can help liberate them. Sullivan rubbed his temples. Of course they are. Mitchell, get me the president on the line. This just became a diplomatic situation, which means I need people who are way above my pay grade making decisions. What about us? Vex Thor asked. You? You're going home. Today. We'll provide transport, since you won't have ships anymore. You'll carry our message to your government. Earth is now a protected world. Those 47 species you conquered? Also protected. By us. Anyone messes with them? They answer to humanity. Anyone messes with humanity? Well, you've seen what happens. You're turning the entire power structure of this sector upside down, Vex Thor said, not quite able to process the implications. Yeah, probably. Look, Commander, between you and me, we don't want to be galactic peacekeepers. We've got enough problems at home. But you came here, threatened us, and gave us no choice. So now we have to be the scary species that makes sure this never happens again. To anyone. Kairen finally found his voice. The other empires won't stand for this. There are forces in the galaxy that make the Zarthian Empire look insignificant. Sullivan smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. Good. Let them come. We'll be ready. We're always ready. That's what we do. 3 hours later, Vex Thor stood in a human transport ship, watching the Eternal Fang shrink in the viewport. Around him, the defeated crew of the Zarthian invasion force sat in stunned silence. Kairen was in private quarters somewhere, probably trying to figure out how to explain this disaster to the High Council back home. Colonel Hayes was escorting them personally, because apparently humans believed in rubbing salt in wounds. "Commander," she said, approaching Vex Thor, "you seem less shocked than the others." "I've been a soldier for a long time, Colonel. I learn to recognize when I've been outmaneuvered." "Good instincts. Probably why you're still alive." She handed him a tablet. "This is for your government. Technical specifications on our defensive capabilities. Complete transparency. We want everyone to know exactly what they're dealing with if they come to Earth looking for trouble." Vex Thor scanned the document and felt his blood run cold again. "These numbers. This is only 30% of your actual military capacity? Give or take. We're still developing new systems. Faster than light travel is going to open up some interesting possibilities. Oh, and we're recruiting, by the way." "Recruiting? Engineers, scientists, anyone who wants to help build a better galaxy. Humans are good at destruction, but we're trying to get better at construction too. Those 47 liberated worlds are going to need infrastructure, protection, trade networks. We figure if we're going to accidentally become a galactic superpower, we might as well do it right." "You're insane, all of you." Hayes grinned. "Yeah, but we're your kind of insane now." "Oh, one more thing." She pulled out a small device. "This is a communicator. Direct line to Earth Defense Command. If your empire decides to behave, play nice with your neighbors, maybe work on that whole peaceful coexistence thing, we're willing to talk. Trade, technology exchange, maybe even friendship. But if you come back with weapons, you'll destroy us," Vex Thor finished. "Worse, we'll make you irrelevant. We'll build alliances with every species you've oppressed. We'll create a galactic community that doesn't need empires or conquest. We'll make your entire way of life obsolete. That's the real human weapon, Commander. We adapt. We evolve. We make friends with anyone willing to be friends, and enemies of anyone who threatens our friends. It's messy and chaotic, and somehow it works." The transport was approaching Zarthian space now. Soon they'd be home, disgraced, defeated, and carrying news that would reshape the entire political landscape of the sector. "Colonel Hayes," Vex Thor said quietly, "a word of advice from an old soldier. Don't trust this piece. There are things in the galaxy that make your weapons look primitive. Ancient species, old alliances, forces that have been playing this game for millions of years. You've made a name for yourselves today. That attention won't all be positive." Hayes nodded seriously. "We know. We're counting on it. See, Commander, humanity has never been good at maintaining the status quo. We're disruptors, change agents. We look at how things are and immediately ask how they could be better, or at least different. The galaxy's been running on the same rules for how long? Millions of years? Conquest, empires, the strong dominating the weak? Since the first species reached the stars. Right. Well, Earth just introduced a new rule. Nobody conquers anyone anymore. Not without going through us first. Yeah, we'll make enemies. We'll also make allies. And maybe, just maybe, we'll build something better than empires and endless war. You really believe that? Hayes looked out at the stars, infinite and beautiful, and full of unknown threats. We have to. Because the alternative is accepting that might makes right, and if we accept that, we're no different from you. No offense. None taken. Vex Thor managed something that might have been a smile. Good luck, Colonel. You're going to need it. Luck? Hayes laughed. Commander, we're humanity. We don't need luck. We make our own. The transport docked at a Zarthian station 30 minutes later. As Vex Thor disembarked with his emperor and the remains of their pride, he looked back at the human vessel. Small, efficient, covered in weapons that shouldn't exist, and he realized something that chilled him more than any threat or demonstration of force. The humans weren't bluffing. They weren't exaggerating. They really were prepared to fight the entire galaxy if necessary. And worse, they might actually win. Back on Earth, General Sullivan sat in his office, reviewing reports and trying to figure out how his Tuesday had gone from bad coffee and routine briefings to accidentally starting a galactic revolution. Sir, his aide interrupted, we're getting communications from multiple species. Everyone wants to know who we are, what we want, and whether we're accepting applications to join this new alliance thing. Alliance? Sullivan frowned. We didn't say anything about an alliance. No, sir, but apparently 47 liberated worlds did. They're calling it the Terran Coalition, with Earth as the founding member and protector. Sullivan groaned. Someone get the Secretary of State on the line, and the President, and probably the entire United Nations. We're going to need a lot more diplomats. Yes, sir. Oh, and sir, the Chinese, Russians, and Europeans all want credit for the victory. Apparently, everyone suddenly contributed to Project Aegis. Of course they do. Sullivan smiled, despite himself. Tell them they can fight over credit after we figure out how to run a galactic coalition. Humans are about to learn diplomacy on a scale we never imagined. And if we mess it up, sir? Sullivan looked out his window at the night sky, at the stars that no longer seemed quite so distant or unthreatening. Then we'll adapt. We always do. It's what we're good at. Somewhere in the infinite dark between stars, word was spreading. Earth had arrived on the galactic stage, not with a whisper, but with a thunderous declaration. Empires were reassessing their strategies. Ancient powers were taking notice, and 47 newly liberated worlds were learning that sometimes the scariest monsters were the ones who defended you. And on one small blue planet, 7 billion humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that they'd just become the galaxy's newest, most unpredictable, and possibly most dangerous superpower. All because an emperor had given them 2 days to surrender, and a general had said 10 seconds instead. The galaxy would never be the same.